Welcome to training session number 2, lesson number 5, creating a patient invoice. The patient invoice window is the window within which all patient sales and payment related information is managed. It shows a patient's current balance, invoice history, and payment history. It is used to issue returns, make adjustments, and transfer payments to other patients. The information managed within this window drives the sales reporting figures and serves as the primary basis of transactions for export to QuickBooks. The main page of the invoice window contains several different sections of information. Let's switch to a patient with some information and take a look. The upper left section of the window displays all of the patient's invoices. Selecting one of the invoices reveals more information about the invoice. Additionally, notice the horizontal scroll bar at the bottom of the list. Sliding the horizontal scroll bar will reveal more information about the invoices displayed. The amount totals appearing at the bottom of the section indicate the total net sales and total amount due. The upper right section of the window displays the items making up the detail of the selected invoice. As you select different invoices from the list of patient invoices, the detail will change. The middle right section of the window displays the payment amounts that have been applied to the selected invoice. As you select different invoices from the list of patient invoices, the applied amount details will change. The lower right section of the window displays all of a patient's payment-related activity, regardless of the invoice selected. It shows when payments were made, the method used, and whether the payments were transferred or applied. Double-clicking upon a line in the Payment Received section will open a pop-up window in which you can see how a payment was applied. From this window, a receipt can be printed documenting the proof of payment. Additionally, a payment can be deleted by an administrator from this window should the need for a correction be warranted. The middle left section of the window displays a free text field in which miscellaneous notes can be entered for a selected invoice. Invoices created from a purchase agreement usually contain text describing the origin of the invoice. In our example here, this invoice was created from purchase agreement number 706. Additional text can be added to the field. When finished editing the note, click on the Submit Notes button to save your changes. The lower left section of the window displays any transfers that were made from the patient to another. A new invoice can be created for most items within the Invoice module. One note here. For an item to be available under Invoicing, it must be set as such in the Administration Item Types module. Let's select New Patient and create an invoice. To create a new invoice, you will need to click on the New button. This will open a new window. The Bill First radio buttons will default to Patient. Change the radio button as needed so that the correct party responsible for paying the invoice has been selected. Next, we will need to select the clinician and the clinic assisting the patient and/or receiving credit for the sale. Alternatively, you can select from one of the appointments to populate the clinician and clinic that assisted the patient during the appointment. In our example here, our patient has yet to have an appointment. Next is our invoice date. Our invoice date will be pre-populated with the current date, unless an appointment has been selected, in which case the date will be equal to that of the appointment date. You can edit this date as needed. To help monitor the return on various marketing efforts, a referral source can be selected to denote which marketing effort receives credit for the sale of the item in the invoice. If cash discounts are offered for cash payment, you can select a discount percentage within the Cash with Order Discount % drop-down field. The Apply Taxes to Invoice can be deselected if absolutely no sales tax should be applied to the entire invoice. Sales tax rates can be specified by item type, therefore sales tax will only be applied to items where applicable. The Send Statements checkbox can be used to denote whether an invoice will be included on a statement. If so, check the box. To add an item to an invoice, if we know the item number, we can type it directly into the item number box. If we do not know the item number, we can click on the magnifying glass icon for a list of available items. We can filter our search list by selecting an item type, typing in an item description, or selecting an item vendor. To add an item, you need to find the item on the list and then select the item by clicking on it, and then click the OK button. Once our item has been selected, we have a series of fields to fill out for the item. These include things like side, quantity, price, and any adjustment. Once complete, simply click the Submit button. This will add our item to the invoice. Continue this process until all items have been added to the invoice. Some items relate to a repair, warranty extension, or certain types of discount program, in which case a hearing aid must be associated with the item to be added to the invoice. When one of these items has been selected, a pop-up window will appear in which there is a list of hearing aids that are on record for the patient. If the aid to which the item relates is in the list, select it and then click the Use Selected Item button. Let's take a look. In this example, our patient has no hearing aids. If that is the case, we need to select the Item Not in List button. Here we can fill out the aid details. Once complete, simply click OK. For this example, I'll be closing the window. Once all our items have been added to the invoice, we can click the OK button. If the Record Serial Number checkbox was checked for any of the items added to the invoice, a pop-up window, which you see in front of you, will appear when you click on the OK button, providing fields to input the serial numbers, side, battery, and warranty dates, if applicable, for each of the serialized items. If our item is coming from stock, you need to check the From Stock box. You can enter serial number, a battery size, and a warranty and loss and damage dates, and click OK. If you do not have this information currently available, you can click OK and fill it in at another time. At this point, a serialized product record will be created and tied to the patient record for which the invoice was created. There's one thing here I would like to point out. Please be aware that selling serialized items straight from an invoice will result in serialized product records being created, but patient vendor orders are not created. Purchase agreements should be used if you want a patient vendor order to be created for hearing aids or other serialized products. An invoice can be edited until it has been approved. There are two approaches to invoice approval: automatic approval and manual batch approval. These will be covered in a future video. To edit an invoice, select the invoice to be edited, come down and click on the Edit button. The fields at the top of the table can be edited as needed. To edit any of the items in the invoice details selection, select the item and then click the Edit button. Make your changes to the item and then click Submit. If you would like to remove an item from an invoice, highlight the item and click the Remove button. This will remove the item from the invoice. Once you have finished making changes, click the OK button to save your changes. When a patient makes a payment, it needs to be put into Prism Connect, after which it can be applied to one or more invoices. To receive a payment, click on the Payments button. This will open a new window. Next, you need to select the clinic receiving the payment method, any check number or bank transaction number, the amount of the payment, and the payment date. Once complete, click the Submit button. After a new payment has been submitted, the payment can be applied to one or many invoices. Additionally, any invoices with a credit balance can be used to offset the balances of any other invoice with an outstanding balance. To apply a payment, select the payment which we would like to apply, the invoice which you would like the payment applied to, then click the button with the double arrows pointing to the right. After clicking the double arrow button, the payment's unapplied amount will be reduced by the amount of the invoice outstanding due balance. In this case, our entire payment was applied to the balance. Repeat these steps until all payments have been applied to invoices. Click the OK button to save payment information. You may have noticed in our payment window we had a couple additional options. Let's take a look at those. The first is the AutoPay. The AutoPay button will apply the selected payment to the oldest invoices with balances outstanding until the full amount of the payment has been applied or until all of the invoices are fully paid. To undo a payment that was applied to an invoice, you can select the payment and the invoice line within the Payment Application Details section, then click the button with the double arrows pointing to the left. This will remove the payment from the invoice, essentially restoring the payment amount so that it can be applied to another invoice. Next is partial payment. To apply a partial payment to an invoice, select the payment line, select the invoice to which to apply a payment, enter the amount to be applied, and then click the double arrow button within the partial payment grouping. When a patient is returning or exchanging items that were previously purchased, a credit invoice can be created from the items being returned. To create a credit invoice, select the original invoice in which the items being returned were originally sold. Click the Return button. This will open a new window. Next, you will need to select a transaction type. Is this a cancellation, a return for credit, or an exchange? For this demonstration, we'll be doing a return for credit. The Use Date of Service checkbox can be checked to make the invoice date be the same date as the original date of service. The invoice date will default to the current date. You can change this as needed. Once complete, click the Submit button. If some of the items on the original invoice are not being returned, you can remove these items by selecting the item in the list and clicking the Remove button. Once complete, click the OK button to save. A credit invoice will be created. You can see our credit invoice here. When a patient has returned an item and is due a refund, you can initiate the refund within the invoice window. Select the invoice for which the refund is due, and then click on the Adjustment button. This will open a new window. Select Refund from the transaction category. The clinic will default to the clinic used on the original invoice. You can change the clinic as needed. Select the refund method that will be used to return the amount the patient is due. Enter check number if needed, and the amount of the refund. Select the date, and click Submit. Now click the OK button to save the refund. You can see our refund listed here, and our balance due on our credit invoice as 0. There are various reasons and situations for which a patient's invoice may need to be adjusted. Examples include presentation of a coupon or promotional discount after a patient's sale, credit from referral programs, insurance adjustment write-offs, and bad debt write-offs. An adjustment can be made to a patient invoice to handle these and other scenarios. For this example, I'll be deleting our credit invoice so that we can create another adjustment on our original invoice. To make an adjustment to a patient invoice, select the invoice for which the adjustment will be made and click on the Adjustments button. This will open a new window. Select either write-off or price adjustment from the transaction category. Within the transaction type dropdown, select the transaction description that best applies to this adjustment scenario. The clinic will default to the clinic used on the original invoice. This can be changed as needed. Enter the amount of the adjustment and the date. Then click the Submit button. Near the bottom of the window, there is a free text space called Notes for New Invoice. This field can be used to explain or describe the reasons for the adjustment and are saved in the new invoice. Once complete, click OK. And now you can see our $100 adjustment. Once an adjustment has been done, a new invoice is created and automatically applied to the original invoice. This reduces, or in some cases increases, the balance of the original invoice and keeps the original sales figure intact. That completes session number 2, lesson number 5, creating a patient invoice.